I was supposed to pledge a lifetime of love and become his wife, but my marriage turned into a nightmare. My parents-in-law doted on their son, and my husband always prioritized them over me. They imposed unreasonable demands on me, treating me as an inconvenience. I refused to let such people ruin my life. To punish them all, I devised a plan. My name is Alyssa, and I'm 29 years old. I've been married to David for a year. We work in the same company and often collaborate on projects. Although I don't have a college degree, I have more experience than David because I've been with the company longer. Our company values ability over academic background, and my strong sales performance has earned me a decent salary. Meanwhile, David, who is both capable and highly trusted by his colleagues, was a boyfriend I could be proud of. I fell in love with him and happily accepted his proposal, and we became a married couple. But then my in-laws started interfering in our relationship. One day, when we visited their house, my mother-in-law suddenly said to David, "Hey David, are you really okay with this?" "With what?" David asked. "Marrying Alyssa. You've always been good at both studying and sports, haven't you? Yet you chose someone as mediocre as Alyssa." Upon hearing this, my father-in-law nodded in agreement. "Yes, at first glance, she seems like an average young woman with nothing special about her." "Ah, that's what you're talking about. It's fine. I love Alyssa," David responded. "Really?" "Well, if you say so," my mother-in-law said, giving me a sideways glance. I felt hurt and angry. "I'm sorry I have nothing special to offer," I thought to myself, but I've also put in my fair share of effort to take on grown woman responsibilities. I cursed them in my mind, but I never spoke out, trying to maintain a peaceful marital life. I wanted to avoid conflict with my in-laws as much as possible. However, one day, they started complaining right in front of me. "Hey David, are you really okay with your current workplace?" his mother asked. "That's right," his father chimed in. "Isn't it a place where even high school graduates like Alyssa can work?" David replied, "But the pay is good, and I have good colleagues." "You're not the kind of man to stay in the same place as high school graduates, are you?" his mother persisted. "You're smart. There must be many other good jobs out there." They kept glancing at me as they tried to persuade David. Believing that responding would mean losing, I deliberately didn't react, but inside, I was seething. What's with that tone? I thought. I do my job well, and there's no difference in work performance based on whether you're a high school graduate or not. In fact, sometimes I earn more than David does. It's safe to say I don't have a good impression of my in-laws who judge people based on academic background or appearance. However, they don't physically bully me, and I don't suffer much direct harm. I had told David in advance that I was a high school graduate, and knowing that, he had said, "I love everything about Alyssa." I took pride in myself for achieving results in a company that values ability over academic background. No matter what my in-laws said, I believed and never doubted that David was on my side. However, after a little while had passed, an incident broke out. Out of nowhere, my husband began speaking of something unbelievable. "Hey, I've been thinking. I've decided to switch to a different job." "What? Wait, what are you talking about all of a sudden?" "Well, I was talking to my parents, and I just realized our company even takes in a high school grad like you, Alyssa. I have a college degree, so there must be a better job out there for me," David declared. "Are you serious? You're making fun of both me and the company, aren't you?" I shot back. "But it's true, isn't it? There's no need for me to work at a job that even a high school graduate can do. Plus, my mom said she could introduce me to a job through someone she knows." "Stop it. We are blessed with a good work environment, and now you say something like this? You're nagging." I finally realized I'm not someone who should be stuck in a place like this. So, his parents had influenced him. He had taken their words at face value and convinced himself that he was too good for a current job. The very next day, without discussing it with me, David submitted his resignation and casually left the company where we met. Only a year into our marriage, my husband had resigned from our workplace without a second thought. He switched to a factory job introduced by his mother, where his salary dropped to about half of what it was. The only advantage, if any, was that it was close to home, making commuting easier. About a week after starting his new job, David began to complain about the factory. "That guy never went past middle school, but he has the nerve to tell me what to do," he shouted, scattering his clothes around. I stepped in to stop him. "Wait, Why are you so angry? If you make such a loud noise, it's going to bother the neighbors. Shut up. Why do I, a university graduate, have to be bossed around by a low-level boss who's just a middle school graduate? Well, you just started there. It can't be helped. He's your boss, right? I don't care. He can't even study, but he has the nerve to boss me around. Damn it. Who's the real problem here? What can a newcomer do without instructions from their boss? You chose to switch jobs, so bear with it a little. I retorted. I know that already. He snapped. I wondered how long he could endure this situation. My attempts to soothe him and get him to work each day were becoming a constant struggle. My doubts were confirmed when one day he caused a major issue at the factory. You broke the factory equipment, I exclaimed in shock. It's not my fault. It's that damn boss who pissed me off, he retorted, slamming his hand on the table. But that doesn't mean you should break the factory equipment. That's absolutely unacceptable. What were you thinking? I had no choice. That guy was bossing me around even though I'm a university graduate. The trigger was when his boss, who only graduated from middle school, criticized David for not working seriously. In response, David insulted his boss's academic qualifications. The fault was entirely with my husband, and everyone present sided with the boss. Enraged by this, David went into a violent rage. In his rampage, he damaged part of the conveyor belt, stopping the production line. As a result, he was fired and faced a large claim for damages. Since it was a factory that his parents had introduced, the damages had to be paid entirely by David and his parents. Consequently, not only did David lose all his savings, but his parents' retirement fund also seemed to vanish in an instant. Though my parents are struggling right now, they're moving into this apartment next week, David said. I let out an absurd gasp in surprise. Living together? I never heard about this. You're my wife, right? Just listen and keep quiet. This is a done deal. Got it. With these words, he stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. A few days later, my in-laws actually moved into our home. I thought it was a joke. Living together was absolutely impossible. I couldn't overlook this, so I confronted my in-laws directly. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, living together is a problem. Shut up. It's your fault our son couldn't make it at the factory, my father-in-law snapped. That's right, you neglected David's mental care, didn't you? My mother-in-law added. Wait a minute, how is this my fault? Can't you shut up? Our life is a mess because of you, my father-in-law shouted. That's right, if you had done things right, this wouldn't have happened. It's all your fault, so living together is natural, right? Ha! What kind of logic is that? Living together is impossible. Shut up. Our home was rented and we've already terminated the lease. There's nowhere else to go, my father-in-law insisted. That's right, we have nowhere else to go other than here, my mother-in-law echoed. Despite moving in without permission, my in-laws had a lot to say. Furthermore, my husband began to insult me, egged on by his parents. Hey Alyssa, I married you. You should be happy to be married to someone as excellent as me, shouldn't you? Forget about that. Can't you start looking for a job soon? It's hard on the household finances now that we're living together. What did you say? You're cheeky for a wife. Supporting your husband is a wife's duty, and supporting your husband's family is also a wife's duty, right? I was getting sick of my husband spouting nonsense as if it made sense. Moreover, neither my husband nor my in-laws helped with the household chores at all. I had a job too, so I couldn't make elaborate meals, and the cleaning inevitably got neglected. No matter what they said, I kept a cool attitude, saying, because it's hard on the household finances. If they weren't happy with it, they caused the situation should handle it. I kept this attitude for several days until one day my husband finally vented his frustration. Hey, what's with your attitude? You're lacking respect for me and my parents. Enough already. I work every day and do all the housework on top of that. You don't help at all, but you complain constantly. Ha, what's with that tone of voice? You don't seem to understand your place, do you? My husband sneered, shoving divorce papers in my face. He had even kindly signed them. What is this? I asked, taken aback. Can't you see? It's a divorce paper. Even a high school graduate can understand that, right? Are you serious? Of course. If you have complaints about me and my parents, then we're getting a divorce. Staring at the divorce papers, my husband spoke with a triumphant look. Let me tell you, even if you throw it away, it's useless. I have more prepared. Understand, if you don't want to be divorced, listen to what I say, you stupid high school graduate wife. In that moment, my rage burst forth from my entire body. I couldn't stand to be with these people anymore. Since he went to the trouble of preparing the papers, I put them to good use. Clutching the divorce papers, I began to plot my revenge. First, I recorded the numerous insults from my husband and in-laws on a voice recorder. Then, I documented instances when my belongings were deliberately broken. I made sure to document everything. By this time, my husband had started working odd jobs, but none of them lasted more than a week. It was as if he had given up on our family. One day, as soon as my husband came home, he opened his mouth. "Oh man, I quit this job too. It was too boring." "Huh? Again? You have no right to complain to me," I replied. "Right, Dad? Mom?" My in-laws just nodded with smiles. This was a usual occurrence, but on this day, my father-in-law delivered the final blow. "Speaking of which, I've quit too," David's father announced. "What? Father-in-law, what are you talking about?" "That's what I'm saying. I've quit my job. I'm planning to live off you, Alyssa." "Wait, what?" "You see, my son is too brilliant and prideful to work under those who only graduated from middle or high school. We're counting on you, Alyssa, a high school graduate, to work hard." "Yeah, let's count on our lowly educated Alyssa to work hard, right dear?" My mother-in-law chimed in. What were they even saying? They intended to live off not their son but their daughter-in-law. I couldn't stand it any longer. With my father-in-law and husband's simultaneous resignations, I finally decided to put all my plans into action. The first thing I did was to sign a contract for a new apartment. It wasn't for all of us, of course. It was a new place for me alone. However, I needed time to move without my husband and in-laws noticing, so I gifted them a 5-day trip to give me time to pack. Upon receiving the trip tickets, my mother-in-law was thrilled. "A trip? Oh, Alyssa, you do have a knack for these things every once in a while. I owe a lot to you all. But are you sure, Alyssa? You can come with us if you like." "No, I have work. Please enjoy yourselves without any interruptions." "Oh, really? Well then, we'll take you up on your offer and have a blast." When the three left for the trip in high spirits, I carried out my planned move. During this time, I shipped my husband and in-laws' belongings to a weekly rental apartment. I had booked and canceled the lease on our current apartment. Of course, I bore all these expenses. It was a painful outlay, but I considered it a necessary expense for my revenge. A few days later, my husband, who must have returned from the trip, called me. "Hey, what the hell is going on? I can't unlock the door." With a smirk at the sound of my husband's frantic voice, I calmly responded, "I suppose I've already canceled that apartment." "What? Canceled? What are you talking about? Explain properly." "For now, I've stored all of our belongings in a weekly apartment nearby. Feel free to do as you wish from there." "What? What does that mean?" "You're always doing as you please. If you get too cocky, you'll pay for it later." "Are you threatening me? Should I call the police?" "Damn it." My husband cursed. "How dare you, my foolish wife." I dropped a bombshell. "Oh, I'm not your wife anymore." "What? To prevent any legal issues later, I've already completed the divorce proceedings." "What? Such a selfish act. You think it's acceptable?" Taking a deep breath, I spat into the phone. "Sorry, but I don't need your permission. You've made fun of me for being a high school graduate long enough, and now you've quit your jobs to become dependent on me. I'm done with you. Enjoy your family life without me." "Hey, you must be kidding. I didn't really mean to divorce. Why should I listen to you at this point? We're strangers now. I don't care what happens to you at all." "Please wait. You've enjoyed looking down on people, haven't you? I can easily imagine your struggles, and it makes me laugh. Go as low as you can with your family, you trash." I hung up the phone. After that, David kept badgering me with phone calls, but I ignored them all. Later, David and my in-laws caused a ruckus at the entrance of the apartment building, dramatically damaging part of the mailbox, which ended up becoming a police matter. They were taken away and ultimately had to pay for the damages to the mailbox, adding to their debts. Truly, they are a hopeless family. The lease for the weekly apartment where I had stored their belongings was about to expire. Since they did not know my new address, they couldn't rely on me. I couldn't help but wonder how David, who quit his job at the same time as his father and his stay-at-home mother, were going to survive from here on out. To make matters worse, my in-laws had even canceled the lease on their rented family home. I could almost see them sinking into a bottomless swamp. I couldn't help but admire my well-executed plan. I don't know how they're going to survive from here on out, and frankly, I don't care. But it's clear their future isn't bright. They brought this upon themselves. On the other hand, I am living carefree in my new home alone. Being able to spend my time leisurely without anyone bothering me is the ultimate bliss. For the time being, I don't think I'll be living with anyone else. I plan to thoroughly enjoy my time free of any worries.